Thank you all very much for tuning in, and this is our, I guess, our fourth meeting together, the start of the third full week here in class for Public Administration 6123 Economic Development. Tonight, my goal is to focus on talking about, kind of answer any questions people have on Assignment 1, as well as kind of do some overview of Assignment 2 and talk about the readings that are assigned for this week. We got some more articles assigned, and I just want to kind of quickly identify them. I know some of the links are broken, so I'm going to actually post those in the discussion group for this week, just so that people are aware of them, so that people have them. But start off with, what I want to do is just, if you want to type in in the chat area your question regarding any questions you might have about Assignment 1. I do want to make one statement before I begin, because of some emails that I've received, that originally the assignment was supposed to be 2 to 3 pages. That was meant as a guideline. However, I know that many of you have collected a lot more information than that, and typically with the way these reports work, there's not, you kind of end up with more information. So for the purpose of this assignment, if it ends up being longer than 2 or 3 pages, you're not going to get, it's not going to hurt you. Let me ask everybody, I'll do this real quick.
Efforts to return payments are not.
Do your best to turn off your phones, to mute your phones, so that we can proceed. I have more like 4 or 5 pages so far. So like I said, don't worry about the length. Again, it should not be long. It shouldn't be an opus or anything, but you can. The length that was more of an intent, but that was more of a guideline. But if it's longer, you're not going to have credit taken off. But do your best to summarize. I don't want a lot of extra information, but if it takes more than, if it's 4, 5, 6, 7 pages, it's not going to be a problem. I would say anything less than 10. Anything less than 10 will be fine. So just kind of keep that in mind. If it's getting longer than 10, you might ask yourself, how much extra information am I providing? So we can always cut back. And in fact, when I review the assignments, I might say, hey, you're doing great. These facts may not be as important as others. The key with this first assignment, honestly, is to kind of see how you're doing overall, and to kind of see that you're able to look at what we're being asked and get the information. So that's where we are right now. Are there any questions regarding Assignment 1 at this time? If there are, you can enter them in the chat box. Wait just another couple seconds in case anybody has any questions they want to ask. Okay. We have one. The example on Blackboard being full of paragraphs, outline format is fine. If you do write in paragraphs, I'm not going to take off, but outline format is what I would prefer for this. I want to see that you're capturing the information and kind of picking out the right information. And honestly, a lot of people, when they read this, prefer the outline format. They prefer to read it as bullet points. So outline format is preferred. yeah, the example in Blackboard has some paragraphs in it, but you can use an outline format. So if you can convert it to that, that would be great. If not, you can use paragraphs, but outline format is preferred. Okay. Doing my best to keep it down. So what we are going to do now is kind of look briefly at, we're going to look at assignment 2. We're going to look at assignment 2 right now. And so we're going to look at that. I'm going to switch over to that assignment. Assignment 2 deals with population and labor force, and that's going to be our focus next week. And when we talked about regionalism, that's been our focus, but that's also going to be our focus looking next week, talking about when you look at Chapter 10, you look at some other information. And honestly, I kind of reversed information. When I looked over Dr. Smirnova's outline from the past, she talked that what was assignment 3 was actually assignment 2. So I swapped assignments 2 and 3 and weeks and also swapped the weeks, because honestly, I don't think you can really look at the economy in a lot of places, particularly in Eastern North Carolina, until you actually look at the demographics. And in assignment 3, you will see is about wages and about wealth. And honestly, I think you got to look at your labor force before you look at wealth issues. So after looking at it closely, I decided to go ahead and just kind of reorganize them and do population and labor force first. Some of the information that I've talked about last week, and also that I cover in the regionalism lecture that I recorded and posted at the YouTube channel, kind of get tied to this, and I'm going to show you some examples here in a little bit. But what you're really looking here is you're trying to pull you're pulling population information. Now, this stuff here, this is basically in a continuation of the work that you're doing in assignment 1. And you're now starting to get more into the demographics. And it's something that you're going to start working more with as we move forward in this class. So the first thing you're going to look at is population. Now, what I will tell you is you can get information for one of the challenges with getting a lot of demographic data is the key source is the decennial census, which comes out every 10 years. However, the reality is there's a lot more that's now gone on. The Census Bureau and the Department of Commerce have developed metrics to try to do a better analysis of a lot of information on an annual basis. And this information is available at a county level on an annual update. The way they do the update is they do kind of like a 5-year or a 3-year estimation. For larger counties, they do 1 year, and this is what they do through a product called the American Community Survey. But the Census Bureau also does annual population projections. And these projections are important, and I would say they've been very important in the last 10, 15 years, because we have seen some degree of, I think, a little more migration than perhaps some people are letting on. So to me, it's important. And I want to talk a little bit about that here now. So what you're going to be asked to look at, and it says a 25-year period, what you're really looking at is a 45-year period, going from 1970 until 2015. So you're looking at decennial census information for 70, 80, 90, and 2010, and then you're looking at the 2015 update. And you're looking at it, and what you're asking, like for example, when you look at population, it's going to ask you for index population, and that's where you're really comparing where is the population now in your county compared to where it was in 1970. And I think this is important. So that's what you're going to graph as part of this profile when you're looking at population change over that period from 1970 to 2015. What you're really looking at is that different? And we'll talk a little bit about how you might present that. But to me, that's pretty important. And of course, you want to show it on a graph. You can show it on a line graph or a bar graph, preferably a line graph, for some information like this. And hopefully, the information here is pretty self-explanatory. It says up here 1970 to 2015. In some cases, it might be challenging to go that far, and I think actually that's an error right there. So what you're really looking at is from 1990 to 2015. So you can find pretty easily the populations for your county for 1990, 2000, 2010, and 2015. And you put together a table, and then you use that table to show the information that you're plotting on your chart. So you show the actual numbers in a table, and then you show the index trend in a line graph in a chart for that. You also want to look at population by age. You also want to look at projected populations. And the reason why I would say in this case, you're probably looking at the projections for 2020 and 2030. Those are probably the ones you're looking at. 2000 and 2010 projections aren't as important, but they are available if you just wanted to look at a comparison. But what I'm interested in seeing are 2020 and 2030. Also, you're looking at your population by age. And then from looking at, just flat out 25-year comparisons, looking at ethnic composition changes as well as educational attainment. Has the population's college graduate population grown or decreased? And as you kind of look at it, if you notice that kind of correlates with perhaps an aging of the population, perhaps that tells you something about some challenges you're having in terms of retaining talent. Because honestly, one of the biggest challenges, and this kind of is shown by some of the research, is the ability for market, and when we're talking about markets, we're talking about the county level, the metropolitan or micropolitan level, be able to retain talent over time. And of course, talent can be measured in part to education. Also, there is information through the census site about migration, looking at natural increase, which is births, and which is the net of births over deaths. Births subtracting deaths, that versus migration. And I will tell you right now, when you look at urban counties, what you will see is their growth is really driven by migration. People come in from other areas. There's some growth tied to the fact that they're having more people that are being born compared to those who are dying. But the real growth in those areas ties directly a lot to migration. So something to keep in mind. You're going to be asked with respect to labor force place of residence. That information is at the Census Bureau. You can see that in terms of the labor force, the rate of change from year to year, in terms of where they are. And what we're really looking at is those who live in the county, who make up the labor force of the county, those who live in the county, and then those who live outside the county. That's what we're looking at. And you can kind of see that with respect to overall, where does the county stand with the statewide, with change at the county level, at the state level, and the national level? Does the county's labor force, in terms of the labor force that lives inside the county, how does that compare to the overall labor force pace nationwide? If the labor force rate at the county level is growing slower or declining compared to the national growth, that's not a positive economic sign. So that is something to kind of keep in mind as you move forward. Yes, you want to create an Excel. You want to do all this in Excel. And I would probably say for each heading that you see there, for each heading like population, additional population variables, labor force, probably put each of those in a separate tab or a separate worksheet within the spreadsheet document. So send me one spreadsheet that has all the information, and then you're going to have different tabs for each. Right, and okay, I will say the time is between 1990 and 2015. So we'll clarify that. The time, I put that in the notes in the chat. The time is between 1990 and 2015. So I apologize for any confusion there. Next, you look at, you have a choice to look at different variables that you can choose. You can look at employment, unemployment level, or unemployment rate. And you can look at performance over business cycles. I would probably focus on the first three. because there are differences. And I will tell you this, when I present economic data to city council, to my boss, I look at employment levels. That's what I look. I look at employment levels as well as rate of change, because to me, that's where the real differences are. Because we could have a very low unemployment rate, but that could actually show no actual increases in jobs. You could still show a net decrease in jobs over time. And when it comes to local health of the economy, in terms of growth, I need more people finding jobs than had jobs a year ago. And you need that to continue to grow and grow and grow. That's really the key. You could also look at labor force participation rate. And overall, naturally, that's been a mark of contention because labor force participation has gone down overall. And a lot of people are concerned about that with respect to participation. So let's keep going. You can choose to look at inter-county commuting patterns. So you've got a couple of different options you can look at. And then obviously you can pull that data from NC Commerce or from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Census Bureau also has some of that as well. Other calculations, you do not have to do this, but there is a calculation that you can look at with respect to the dependency ratio, and that information should be available. I think it's actually available in the American Community Survey, if I remember correctly. A lot of this information can be found online statewide. It can also be found through some other sources, and I did make sure that these links worked. I do believe. I'm just checking this link right here. For example, this one right here, how to create population. For example, one of the things you could do to create is what they call a population pyramid chart, and this there is a tutorial in Excel that shows you how to create it. So that information is correct, and there's also a YouTube video that shows you how to create a population pyramid, if that's something you want to do. I'm not going to necessarily give you extra credit for that. You can choose to do other marks. Probably the strongest source is the American Fact Finder, which ties into the American Community Survey, and we'll look at that in a second. You also have some various other census products that are done. On page 3, you can see that once you've done your table analysis, which you should do in Excel, you should show that information in Excel, then you need to kind of work on the questions for analysis. This will be a Word document. So you're going to submit 2 documents. You're going to accept one Word document and one Excel document. And the first question, you can see what those questions are, and you can see that those questions deal with information since 1990. There's 9 questions total. Again, you should limit your answer to 3 pages typed, single space, font no greater than 12 point. You can go down, it can be between 10 and 12 point with regular margins of no less than 1 inch around top, bottom, left, right. So I would say with this, you will answer each of these questions. Remember, you've only got the idea is, of course, to answer them as quickly as possible, but you should be able to answer them within 3 pages. The idea is not to give long answers; it's just simply to give short answers with respect to what the data tells you, and then describe what the data tells you overall. Make sure to identify on both assignments which county you are doing. Make sure it's very clear to me, either in the file name or in how you provide the information in the document, what the county name is, and of course also identify your name as well. So you should be able to do that. And again, you will email these to me at my work address, kenneth.hunter@rockymountnc.gov. If you have any other questions, you can certainly put them in chat or send me an email. I also tonight will go ahead and create a discussion board with respect to assignment 2. So I will go ahead and create that tonight so that we have that information, so that you have a place if you have any questions regarding assignment 2. Because I know that there might be some that you have and some that you haven't even thought of. Overall, in my conversation with people, it sounds like most people are on the right page with respect to assignment 1. So I don't expect a lot of issues with respect to assignment 2. But if you have any questions regarding assignment 2, you can certainly ask them. You can certainly ask them here. Well, I'll go ahead and ask if there's anything in particular you would like for me to cover regarding the assignment information. If you can type that in the text in the chat, that would be great as well. See a lot of questions in the discussion on the discussion board. Yes, assignment 2 will be due on the 8th. We're going to basically be doing one assignment a week. Once we've done this first assignment, we've got one assignment a week on the 8th, 15th, and 22nd. So these assignments are due, and they're basically due at 11:59 p.m. At 11:59 p.m. Eastern each time. I'm enjoying reading the discussions overall. I think all of y'all are showing some interest. Once you start getting into the data part of it, it is interesting to kind of see what the makeups are. You do learn a lot studying the data. I do this a lot, studying the data of Nash and Edgecombe counties for my work, and it certainly, you certainly find yourself studying a lot within a very short period of time. Want to look at one other. I'm looking quickly, looking at assignment 1 questions. Okay, people are asking about sending something for review. I am not going to necessarily do review on this first assignment, but I will provide review and it will be graded liberally, just to let you know, because my key is to see how you're doing and I will provide more feedback. But overall, the keys that I'm looking right now is just its overall completion of the assignment. So I'm not going to be able to provide preliminary review before it is due on Wednesday, but you don't need to worry. If you have followed what the assignment says, you should be okay. My other goal will be to try to have the assignments graded by Sunday, and I will put that as a priority over lecturing, recording lectures. And the reason being is that I know y'all would like to probably get your feedback on this assignment before you have to complete assignment 2 and turn it in. So I will get through assignments. I will have an assignment due. You will have an assignment. You should have your assignment 1s graded and back to you with some notes, and it'll probably be notes by email. I may have a chance to scan them. I don't know, but it'll have your notes by Sunday night at the latest. You'll have 72 hours or so. Due on Wednesday, email to you. Yes, email the assignments do not post in the Blackboard, as well as on population trends formula. Look at the exam. Look at the. What I will tell you is use. Let me look at the sample again, which you see, and where you see the total. I'm not going to say no sample, but index, but I do believe everybody can run it so that instead of T1970 should be T1990. In other words, the population for 1990. If I get a chance this week, I may do it, but my preference would be I think everybody can figure it out. So don't worry about 1970. Focus on 1990. That's my recommendation to everybody. So I'm probably going to go back and update that. That was an error on my part in terms of reviewing the assignments and converting them over. Also, before the end of the week, assignments 3 and 4 will be posted, so you'll have the information for the remainder of the assignments this month. There are 4 assignments due before the midterm exam, so those are the 4 assignments, and this is, of course, the second of the 4 that we're looking at now. The first of the 4 is due this Wednesday, the regional scan, and it is my email. I track when the emails are received. It is due by 11:59 p.m. Wednesday. So you got a little more than you probably got a little more than, let's see here, 9. You got a little more than 51 hours to complete your first assignment. So keep that in mind. 51 hours from when the time that this is being fed live. Obviously, this is going to be recorded. I will make this recording available either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, depending on how fast any meeting can get it ready for me to download and then upload it to YouTube. I want to talk now a little bit about the reading assignments for this week. This week we are focusing our attention on understanding data, and of course looking at classification and manipulation. There are 3 assignments. 2 are reading. 1 is more just looking at information. And this last one on NC workforce information, it's been redesigned since it came out. There were a lot of changes to State Commerce Department data in the last couple of years during the McCrory administration. So I'm probably going to need to make some adjustments to it, and I may write up something to explain how you can pull some additional workforce. The lead data that I showed in the last lecture, in the last video during our last Q&A that has to do with the State Commerce economic, that data offers a lot of great data on employment. But there are 2 articles to look at, and these links don't necessarily work. The first one doesn't really have one, and I'm going to load that into miscellaneous. But I did want to show you that the guide you are looking for is this guide here, which should come up. It's called SocioEconomic Data for Understanding Your Regional Economy, a User's Guide. And it's kind of like a how-to. It's about 20 years old, so some of it may have changed, and certainly some of the links that he refers to are probably dead. But that information is in there. It's a nice reference guide, and I may pull some information from there to use on the exam. Talking about probably going to look more at just some of the basics. So probably if I was to pull anything for the exam, it'd be from part 1, in terms of really looking at it, or looking at those 10 habits in Chapter 5. I probably wouldn't go any further than that if I was to pull information for the exam. So just kind of some thought in terms of what. But it's a good I've looked over it a little bit this evening, and it's a good reference book overall in terms of information to have when you're looking at economic data. The next item that I wanted to show you is that and this one is a little different. Methodologies for calculating local area personal income and employment. This is actually the BEA website. They've got some methodologies, and they actually published this one, and this one's pretty recent. They do it each time that they do an update, and they kind of give some information. There's a lot of information in here. I'm probably not going to reference this in the exam, but it is something to take a look at. If there was anything to look at, it would be kind of look at this brief history. So probably looking at this Section 1 introduction, just to kind of give you an idea of how they do it. Section 1 continues for a little while, but a lot of it gets into stuff that I'm not terribly worried about. But, just some good background information to look at. But that kind of talks a little bit about how they actually put this together, how they do the methodology to calculate it, because they're not just looking at it in the aggregate, they're also looking at specific industries. We talked about, there's also reference here to NC Workforce. This is actually the NC Works website. And you can see what this is really it's a job searching site. So as you can see, it's kind of like and it's really meant to be a clearinghouse that's run through the state, mainly for people who apply for unemployment benefits. So when someone applies for unemployment, obviously they're expected to be going out and looking for a job or using state resources to find one. And so sites like this are developed so that they can monitor whether people who are receiving assistance are doing their work. So they're expected to kind of go online or go through a center, and we have one here in Rocky Mountain. There are several that are across the state, and be looking for a job. That's kind of something that's important. Employers, in a lot of cases, particularly those employers who do work with the state or receive incentives, are expected to post their jobs through the site. They don't have to pay for it. That's an advantage. They don't have to pay for it like they have to pay to advertise them publicly. And the idea being is that if they're listing their jobs through this service, that the people who work for the workforce centers are able to kind of provide that information to people who are looking, who are on unemployment, to get them where they need to be. This is kind of like the job center that you see featured. Unfortunately, probably a little bit not necessarily the best positive light when you watch TV shows. But those are the examples. So the two articles, the two links and articles, I'm going to put out I'm going to write up a brief announcement to just about week 3 reading material, and that people will have that to use as just some updated link. So for people who want to access those items. But we will do that here pretty shortly after this session is over. Go back. Are there any other questions regarding either assignment 1, the regional scan, or assignment 2, the population labor force profile, which is due on February 8th? Are there any other questions? Don't worry about Chapter 10 right now, and don't worry about the reading for next week. You'll do that next week. My other intention is that I know that I owe you, if you've gone to the YouTube page, let me bring that up for you real quick. I'm going to bring this up. You'll see that we've created a YouTube page. You'll see that there are 3 lectures loaded. There's 1A, 1B, and 2A. And so the lectures that I still owe you are 2B, 3, and 4. So this week you will see loaded 2B, 3, and 4. Some of you have viewed them. I hope that they've been good. You also see that the Q&As are loaded. So there'll be a Q&A. That'll be the first thing, and then you'll see a lecture 2B. Lecture 2A kind of goes over understanding the economy, and it's a real good one. Remember that the material that I cover on these lectures is subject to being brought back up on the midterm and the final exam. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind as we move forward, along with the other reading material. So this week, of course, You don't have, this week we don't have any additional reading in the main text, the Blakely and Lee text, but we do have some other work to do, and I do have some work I need to do, finishing up, first of all, the lecture on Chapter 5, process, talking about the process of economic development, and then also getting into process and the profession, then also doing one on regions, and then also one on understanding data. And those, I'm going to do my best to keep the lecture 3, which will be on regions, and lecture 4 on understanding data, to keep those to about 45 to 50 minutes. I think I can do that. So, and then hopefully that means we'll be caught up, so that from then on out, for the remainder of February and for the remainder of the semester, you're only getting about one lecture a week. I do apologize. It's just been a lot. Do plan. It's just something I've been catching up with. Yes, I will create a study guide, and that study guide, I will go ahead and tell you, and I'm going to go ahead and type this in there. Study guide should be published by, I'm going to go ahead and say that, you know, the final is, the midterm is going to be due on the 3rd, and the published date of that midterm is probably going to be the 28th. So it'll be with the idea that you'll have 72 hours, or at least 72 hours. So I would say probably looking at the study guide will be ready. Study guide should be published by the 22nd, by the 21st. So I'm just going to put in there, study guide should be published by 2/21. So yes, I think that's definitely something that you all need. The readings should be something that you should focus on, and I need to make sure that I'm including some additional information on it. You should be able to find something through JSTOR or through EBSCO. You know, for example, this one here, the TIVO Community Economic Base Study, that should be something that you should be able to find through one of your library resources or online, but I'll check and make sure. Also, some of these other ones you might be able to find on your own. As you can see, there are no links provided for them, so most of these should be studies that you can find either online through Google or something that you can find in some of the library resources like EBSCO and JSTOR. And then again, next week we will start back, because we do have some additional reading we will do before the end of the semester, including chapters 10 and 9, and also chapters 3 and 6. So you'll be, you're responsible for 1 through 6, and then 9 and 10 prior to the final exam. 7 and 8 will not be on the mid. I'm sorry. 1 through 6, and then 9 and 10 will be on the midterm. 7 and 8 will not be on the midterm, just to let you know. So 9 and 10, 7 and 8 will not be on the midterm. But all that will be covered in the study guide, as well as what articles will be included in the study guide. So if for some reason I don't get a lecture done before the 21st, it will not be included in the material for the midterm. So if I'm behind on lectures, do not worry. The last lectures that will be applied to the midterm will be posted before on or before the 21st. So don't want to like throw something in there at the last minute and say, hey, study this. So there'll be at least 1 week between when we start posting additional material and when it'll be on the midterm. So I hope that that's okay for people, but I'll make sure that that study guide is on there. Are there any other questions at this point? Seeing that there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. You'll notice it's a little more basic system that we use this week. It's a little, doesn't have as many bells and whistles, but it does everything I need it to do. If you ever have any questions, of course, you can email me. My work email is the best. If you do want to schedule time for us to do an office hours meeting, it would probably be by telephone or by chat. It won't be in person because I'm, of course, based here in Rocky Mount. But if any of you feel that you need time for office hours, I'm more than available. Of course, in the late afternoons, and that will be the case both tomorrow and Wednesday. I will be available from 3 to 5 both days. tomorrow and Wednesday prior to the exercise if you have any questions. If you want me though for office hours, you need to let me know in advance. That's the key thing. Remember that the first assignment is due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time this Wednesday, February 1st, and it is due in email form. It should be sent in a Word document. The next assignment will be due on February 8th by 11:59 p.m., and that should consist both of a Word document and an Excel spreadsheet. If there aren't any other questions, we'll go ahead and conclude this Q&A session. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to talking with you all again next week, and look forward to seeing what you all have got put together for your first assignment this week. So take care, be safe, and enjoy the rest of your week.